On this video, we're taking a look at a game based on my favourite domestic animal in the world, the cute little kitty cat, and I think this calls for a celebration. Hi, I'm Luke Hector from the Broken Meeple, and if this is your first time checking out my channel, it's full of reviews, top 10, solo plays, you name it, I've tried it all. Please have a look at the rest of the content that there is, and if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if the game I'm talking about takes your fancy, then consider acquiring it from zatu.co.uk, where you can use my code at the bottom of the screen and in the description to get 5% off your basket of games no matter how much you're purchasing. If there's a gap on your shelf that needs filling, consider filling that up now. You want a light filler about cats and pretty quilts? Well then Calico could be right up your alley. This is a light abstract game from AEG and Flat Out Games where you are placing tiles on your recessed board in order to score points by various means. The main mean is that you will be trying to satisfy the needs of these bonus tiles that are on your board that score in different ways. So you might need to say have 4 blue and 2 spotty pattern tiles around this tile in order to score a lot of points. But then on top of that, you can get groups and clusters of colours together to score some bonus points, and if you match the pattern requirement for these various cats that come into play, then a cat token will attract itself to your quilt and that will score you points as well. The turn sequence is very simple. You essentially play a tile and take a tile. You're taking a tile from a tableau of tiles that everybody has access to, but the tile that you place down can go anywhere on your board, but where you place it is key. If you're trying to get colours together, then obviously you need to keep those colours together. If you're trying to satisfy the needs of a particular cat, then you're trying to get a bunch of pattern, the same type all together. But then you've also got to think about the bonus tiles in the middle of your board that require specific requirements, saying like 3 of one type and 3 of another, 2 or 3 different types, all completely different. And if you don't satisfy one, chances are hopefully you'll satisfy another. But trying to satisfy all 3 things on your board is pretty difficult. The tiles themselves are just a mix of different patterns and colours, whereas the cats all have different point values, but also different requirements themselves. Some of them require you to have X amount of tiles of a certain pattern in front of them, but then others want them to have it in a certain shape as well. The idea being that these cats are worth different points depending on how hard the objective is, but if you can meet that objective while building up your quilt, then a nice pretty little cat will come along and stay on your quilt and give you some extra points. Ain't that nice of them?
I think not, baby puppy.
Players simply take it in turns to place a tile and draw a tile until eventually all the boards are filled, and then you total up the points based on the conditions I've already mentioned, and of course, the one with the most points is the winner.
Of course!
So let me give you some details on this game. First, for the duration, 30 to 45 minutes is what it quotes on the box, and that's pretty accurate to be fair. It's meant to be a light filler game at the end of the day, and a solo game of this will probably take you about 30 minutes, 2 players about the same, 45 minutes if you're playing it offline in about 3 or 4 players, probably closer to an hour and a bit though if you're trying to play it on Tabletop Simulator or certain equivalent. All in all, it's not a very long game as you would expect, but I would usher a small note of caution though if you intend to play this with 3 and certainly 4 players. The AP that this game can generate is quite high at times. When you have your tile, yes, you sort of know what you're going to do, but then there's a lot of options that you have on your board as to where to put it, and then depending on what other tile you might see out there in the tableau, players do freeze up quite a bit in this game and trying to think, oh, where should I put it? Well, if I put it there, it might not be good for me. Maybe I should just have 3 blues, but then I'm missing out if I don't put it there. What do I do? You get a lot of this coming in this game, and it's not that it's the most brain-burny game ever, but because the decisions, as we'll get onto a bit later, are pretty meaningful at times, you will get players freeze up. And so 4 players can drag things out a little bit in terms of downtime, especially when you've already maybe planned out your next 2 or 3 tiles that you're going to do. But that's a small note of caution. It's just noticeable when you're playing with lots of players. In a solo and 2-player game though, back and forth, easy done, nice and quick. Eve, ease of play. How easy is this game to grok, and is it going to be too complex for some? Not at all. I mean, this is a family weight game through and through. There's even a family version in there which removes some of the bonus tiles that you do, where it literally just becomes about colours and cats. That's like the super easy version, but frankly, Having the bonus tiles is not difficult. The rules in this are not complex. The rule book's not even that particularly large. It looks larger than it is, but some of that is just a lot of pictures and a lot of a lot of examples, and there really just isn't a lot to absorb. Teaching this game will barely take you about 10 minutes tops, and learning it even just from the rule book, if you were to pick up and play this at a cafe, would do you just fine. In fact, some of this is mainly loaded with stuff like achievements, which, does anybody really play board games to get achievements these days? I don't even care about achievements on Steam. Why do I care about them in a board game? And then you've got 2 pages for solo mode, which may or may not interest some of you anyway. And one thing I do like in here, which I'll get onto that a little bit later when we come to Immersion. But yeah, this is not a particularly complex game at all. There were no rules that I had to really check as we were going through. I didn't particularly even find anything ambiguous. I just read through it and went, yeah, that's pretty sorted, not a problem. You've even got a couple of variants if you want to up the difficulty level a little bit. But for families, for kids, for new gamers, this one is a gateway game through and through. T for tactics and strategy, this is where it's a little bit more hit and miss. With 3 and 4 players, this game becomes less of a tactical extravaganza and more of a push your luck fest. With 108 tiles, with 3 sets of all the colours and patterns, you'd think you'd be able to get exactly what you need in order to do well at this game. But that's not usually the case. You might just get unlucky. I've got to surround this tile with 3 green and 3 blue. Well, that's alright, I've started off from green and blue. And then the green and blues don't show up. Well, what am I supposed to do then? I'm kind of screwed. Maybe a green did show up, but another player's already taken it. And I really don't get why they didn't scale this for players. You have 3 tiles in the center of the board for people to take tiles from. Why only 3? Why not 5? And why does it not, kind of remain a bit more static? With 4 players, you look at 3 tiles, you might as well not even pay attention to them until the person before you is about to take their turn, because likelihood is that a lot of them aren't going to be there by the time it comes back round. And it's very frustrating to basically go, well, I'll draw this tile, but there's nothing there I need. And then suddenly the tile you want comes out and you've got little to no chance of it coming back round. 3 and 4 I just find a little bit too random for, even for a 45 to 60 minute game. I just think, I don't feel like, yes, I'm making hard decisions about where I want to put tiles, but I feel that it's more a case of, well, why am I thinking about where to put these tiles? Because it's not hard to tell where I want colours and patterns. I'm just hoping they turn up later. But when you get to 2 players and a solo mode though, things take a little bit more of a turn for the positive. There is a variant in the book which I recommend you use every time you play this with 2 player and solo. You don't have to, you can keep all the tiles if you like. But what the variant does is that it allows you to remove 36 tiles from the bag, a complete set of pattern and colours. So essentially you have like 2 of each colour and pattern in the thing. You've got what, like 72 tiles left? It reduces the variance down quite considerably, and with 2 of you, not only do you have a more accurate means of hate drafting if you need to, like, okay, the tile there I don't desperately need, but hang on, I can definitely say you want that, I'm going to take that tile anyway. But on top of that, you have an easier time looking at your board and their board and deciding, well, hang on a minute, I've got one of this and they've got the second, that means that doesn't exist in the bag anymore. So I'm never gonna see it. I'm gonna have to change my tack somehow. And when you have 108 tiles in the bag, that becomes harder, because even if you just see maybe 1 on your board, it's like, well, I know there's 2 in there, but will they turn up? The variance is quite high. Bring less tiles though, and you get a bit more of a chance, but even then it's more a case that you can see what you shouldn't be going for as opposed to what you're trying to go for. But the solo mode is really where the game shines, particularly if you use that variant, because frankly this game is pretty much a multiplayer solitaire game. Apart from sort of going, that person next to me wants a green tile, maybe I'll take a green tile, but really I need a purple tile right now. It's like, you're not going to be hate drafting very often here. So I don't really care what the other players on the table are doing, I'm trying to do my own thing. So the solo mode, I figured, would be a good place to start, and the solo mode is literally 1 rule difference from the multiplayer game. It's pretty much the exact same game, except you know which tile is going to get removed from the tableau when you're playing it solo. Okay, that didn't exactly require too much extra thought. But the cool thing with the solo mode though is that you have a couple of pages of scenarios where you have to not only achieve a certain amount of points, but you also have to collect certain cats or do certain color combinations, or basically, you have other set requirements that you must meet in order to pass the scenario. It's not just simply a case of get the highest points possible, and that's cool. I would have been a little bit like bummed out if it was just literally beat your own score. This time it's a case of, right, I need 55 points and the rainbow token and this cat. Okay, cool. And you have to kind of work towards those rather than just playing the game as you normally would. The achievements, I don't really care. I mean, they're basically things like, you know, who managed to get the rainbow token this game, who managed to get loads of different cats. If that's your thing, great, but frankly, I couldn't have cared less, but it's a minor thing in the rulebook, whatever. So, overall, tactics and strategy-wise, I do like the decisions you have to make, but I just don't feel inclined to play this at 3 and 4 player, which kind of reduces the scope of when I can play it to solo and 2 player.
This is why Superman works alone.
A for aesthetics, is the game pretty to look at? Take a guess. I mean, come on. The box cover alone is beautiful. This is one of the cutest little kitty cats ever, and I'm a big softie for cats. This is why my voice is going to go high-pitched very frequently, but it's beautiful. Look at that cat there, sleeping or snoring like he's sweet.
You're not sleeping with it, are you, Ray?
But the game itself is really well produced. I mean, you've got dual layer recess boards that you put your tiles in. The artwork is just, you know, I mean, it's not like stellar artwork, but it's very nice and colourful. Everything just looks very pretty. The tiles are nice and thick. The tokens are thick. There's no issues with graphic design. It's easy to read the bonus tiles. They essentially do a kind of AAA/BBB format, so you can tell, alright, so it's 3 of one type and 3 of another. Easy. Nothing in this game is hard to understand from a graphic design perspective, and everything just looks beautiful on the board, particularly when you start putting your quilt together and creating all sorts of patterns and then putting little color tokens to say I've got a group of 3 green, and even the little cats that go on there as well, which are beautifully rendered pictures of actual cats. I for Immersion, is the theme engaging? Are you always active in the game? Well, it's an abstract game, so there's not really much in the way of theme, but remember when I talked about real cats? Well, the thing I love about this is that the cats that are in this game are actually real cats. There's a blurb on the back of this book where it shows you all the cats that feature in this book, in this game, along with their names and their descriptions from their owners. So you got Millie, Tibbet, Coconut, Rumi, Almond, who names their cat Almond? Guinevere, Callie, Leo, Luna, Shopcat. Shopcat? I haven't read that one, but yeah, Shopcat, that's a bit of a weird name for it. But it just adds that nice little bit of flavour, you know? They didn't have to do it. They could have literally just drawn, like, whatever cat and I'd have been perfectly happy. But the fact that they actually modelled it on real cats and you just get a little bit of a history, if like me, you're a cat fan, it just adds that. It's just a nice little extra quirk that they didn't have to do, but I respect them for doing it.
Evil does not wear a bonnet!
Yeah, the theme is not really there. It could have been themed around anything. It could have literally just been no theme at all and just been a straight up pattern abstract, and it would have, like, something from the Gift series maybe, and it would have probably still worked mechanically as a game. In terms of engagement though, you are looking at your tile and thinking, ooh, where could it go, where can it go? And providing you avoid the AP issue I mentioned earlier, you should be in a state where you're not really like, oh, come on, I already know what I'm doing on my turn, while you're waiting for others. But as I say, it can happen sometimes, you know, where you've got that tile, oh yeah, I know exactly where that's going, and somebody else is taking a long time. But like I say, minor little issues there, doesn't tend to happen too often. And finally, L for longevity. Is there a good amount of replay value in this game? Not a ton, I will admit. If you're really hard up on trying to get those achievements and beat every single scenario in the solo mode, then you probably will get a decent amount of replay value from this game, or should I say more a degree of variety. But each game is going to play out pretty much the same no matter what you do in the multiplayer setting. Yes, you can tweak the bonus tiles, so you can use like the beginner version, or you can mix and match from a selection of 6, but regardless of what tiles you pick, it doesn't really change how the game flows, it's just how they score. You know, if the bonus tile wants 3 of something and 3 of another, is it really going to change the game that dramatically from a tile that requires 4 of one and 2 of another? Not really. It's just another way to score. You have different cats each game, which will again have different requirements, but the requirements are essentially, do I need 4 of this cat, 5 of this cat, no sorry, 4 of this pattern, 5 of this pattern, 6 of this pattern, or do I need 4 of this pattern in a cluster of like a 1, 2, 3 or something. It's just a way for it to score. It doesn't really make the gameplay change dramatically, and so not a ton of variety except for the solo mode. And certainly if you're not the sort of person who plays games solo, you're probably missing out on a good chunk of this game in terms of its replay value. So my final word on Calico is that even if you don't know what the word Calico actually means, this is a light, pleasant filler for many people to enjoy. Gamers may get a kick out of it if they use the variant rules in it, but for the most part this is targeted at families, and I see no reason why families wouldn't enjoy this game. But it does lack a little bit on the replay value side, particularly if you're not a solo player, and I do find that there's just not a huge amount of point in playing this with 3 or 4 players unless you are essentially a family of gamers looking for something light and cutesy, or perhaps you're just a fan of cats like me and you just get a kick out of it. So overall I give Calico a solid 7 out of 10. Nothing amazing, but it deserves a seal of endorsement for being well produced, well priced, and well suited to a family setting. It's probably not one that I'm going to hang on to personally, but if somebody brought it along, I'd happily play it. I'd certainly want to use the variant if we had 2 or less players. I just don't think it's going to quite rise up above the level of solo games for me, but it's nice. It essentially ticks the boxes. Light, easy, cutesy, looks good, feels good. You know, what more do you need from a light filler? Now I hope you've enjoyed viewing this video on the Broken Meeple, but I'm not the only one who's producing videos for your viewing pleasure. And I don't just mean the big lot that everybody talks about. I mean, they deserve your views, but think about the smaller creators as well. Those who have barely got even 1,000 subscribers, barely even a few hundred, but they're passionate about the hobby as well, they're doing their part, they're putting in the effort to put out videos, and there's a lot of really good stuff out there that a lot of you might be missing out on. So why don't you start with this channel and see if it's another one you might want to consider subscribing to.
Welcome to Bones Collector. This channel is a vehicle for my wife Lori and I to talk about our love of board gaming. We focus on games that play in 90 minutes or less and favor games with positive themes. All the games we play must work well at the 2-player count. Euro games are our favorite, but we're usually willing to try anything. The fact that we are senior citizens may influence the style of games that we play, but as I'm fond of saying, hopefully all of you will be senior citizens someday and dust off our channel. Keep on board gaming because it's the best hobby on the planet, and I love every one of you, and I'll see you soon on the Bones Collector. Bye-bye.
So that's it for me on this episode of the Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, or if you just like cats in general, then click the avatar to subscribe and hit the bell for future notifications. Until next time, you can check out my recent upload or a video suggested by me at the bottom. Until next time, remember as always, it's only a game.